So a couple of days ago I made a video on 5 reasons why you should own a cheap phone. I linked the video in the description below as well as somewhere here. Today I want to also talk about the opposite, why it might make sense to own an expensive phone. Let's get right into it. Number 1, we use it a lot. You see, I'm a big believer in focusing your spending on a few key areas that matter most for you and really splurge there, within your means of course. And on the other hand, be extremely frugal on things that aren't really important to you. And whether you like it or not, phones tend to play a very big role in everyday life for most of us. I mean, on average we spend around 2.5 hours a day on social media alone, so that's not counting in listening to music, using your phone for navigation, taking photographs, gaming and actual phone calls and text messages, so it's a lot. So something that we use so frequently and grab and touch like 100 times a day can create lots of frustration when it falls short somewhere. Like, think of a phone with a very dim screen that you can't really use outdoors in bright daylight. You'd probably curse at your device a lot, especially in stressful situations like when you're waiting for Uber and need to, read the license plate on your app or something like that. You get the idea. So in my opinion, it does make sense to invest a bit more, because both nice and bad experiences with your phone will eventually compound and have the potential to improve or worsen your mood, which kinda is a big deal, right? And at least you don't have to debate whether you will make enough use of your new purchase, right? Which might not be the case with, that new gym equipment you had the urge to buy on January 1st, right? Number 2, peak smartphone. I think it's fair to say that now in 2024 we probably have reached peak smartphone, or at least we have reached some kind of plateau over the last years. That means that improvements on a year-to-year basis are quite incremental, and people tend to stick to their phones for longer periods, as there just isn't that much worth upgrading for. Compare that to the early years, like, 15 years ago, when you bought a top-of-the-line phone that essentially became obsolete a year later, and 2 years later was outperformed by even the cheapest of smartphones, right? I mean, when the first iPhone came out in 2007, it cost $500. Today, with inflation factored in, that is about $750. And of course, comparing any $750 or even any $100 phone to the original iPhone is like a night and day difference. You just get so much more for your money. In fact, the original iPhone would have looked horribly bad even compared to any smartphone from like 2010. But I guess that's the price you pay as an early adopter. And that's what makes today a great time to buy a more expensive phone, as it will hold its value better and probably will still be relevant in 3 years, and you don't have to worry about your phone being obsolete shortly after buying. Number 3, the features. The obvious one, right? When you start thinking about every product category, modern smartphones have essentially replaced like photo cameras, video cameras, MP3 players, navigation devices, Game Boy, small gaming devices in general, PCs to some degree, and many more. Then you start realizing that even the most expensive of smartphones isn't that expensive after all. Especially when you think about cameras. The quality of camera systems is one of the bigger differentiators between cheaper and more high-end phones. You see, 14 years ago my uncle bought me a Panasonic FZ38 camera, which would ignite the photography spark within me and eventually made me become a professional photographer later on. And that very camera cost around 400 euros in 2010. And the thing is, every modern flagship smartphone would easily outperform it in photography and especially in videography. Smartphones have just gotten so incredibly good. And when you're interested in photography or videography or content creation, spending a few $100 extra on, let's say, an iPhone 15 Pro over some mid-tier phone might be a great investment. I mean, there are really big YouTube channels out there filming everything entirely on iPhone. And if you want to see what is possible with a smartphone when you really push the envelope, just look at Apple's keynote videos like its WWDC, where everything is filmed entirely on iPhone. Needless to say, in the world of photo and video equipment, a few $100 or euros is not really much at all. So a more expensive phone that gets the job done might actually be the frugal choice. And the same goes for gaming. Higher end phones just have more raw power and provide a much better gaming experience. When you're also in the market for some kind of portable and hand-holdable gaming device like a Nintendo Switch, a powerful smartphone might actually do the trick, right? Long story short, when you have some kind of specific application in mind, like content creation or gaming, buying a more expensive phone might actually save you money. Number 4, it looks more professional. The next one is a bit of a, well, it is what it is. But of course, like with cars and clothes and watches, people see phones as status symbols. And obviously the latest, most expensive iPhone or the newest Samsung Fold, for example, has a different impact on your surroundings than a generic cheap plastic phone from some unknown brand. And maybe it's important to you how other people perceive your mobile phone. Not that I would say it's a good thing, but for some people it does matter. And to some degree I can understand that. You see, I used my small iPhone SE here for quite some time, until 2021 to be precise. And as a professional hospitality photographer, I often felt a bit, I don't know, out of place amongst all the hotel managers and marketing executives who were of course rocking the latest and greatest in terms of smartphones, making me think like, do they think that my photography business isn't doing well? And totally unnecessary of course, and obviously nobody should buy anything just out of fear what other people might think about you, like never. But I totally get it and understand when somebody chooses a more expensive phone in order to appear more professional or whatever, especially in some kind of freelancer entrepreneur environment. And finally, number 5. Expensive phones often aren't that much more expensive. When comparing costs of different products, I always like to look at the whole picture. The cost of ownership. What is your phone costing you over the time you're using it? In essence, buying price minus selling price. And when looking at a 3-year period, meaning you buy your phone, use it for 3 years and then sell it, well, then the difference between the flagship models and the more mid-tier phones often isn't that big. I've done a whole video about cost of ownership of iPhones specifically. Link is here somewhere, as well as in the description below. And it turns out that, for example, in the US at least, over 3 years it only costs you about $60 more to own a Pro iPhone compared to a standard one, due to slightly different depreciation curves. But a general rule of thumb across all brands would be that, similar to cars, phones lose the most value in the first year, and especially so phones with upgraded storage and or bigger versions of a phone. So after a year of depreciation, an ultra expensive Samsung Ultra phone or an iPhone Pro Max with 1 terabyte of storage might be a significantly better deal. Also when comparing to the more standard mid-range options. But me here at the end recommending buying used phones again is quite a nice full circle thing, and again perhaps you might want to check out my video on 5 reasons why you should not own an expensive phone. It's also somewhere here. In the end, I want to emphasize that I'm neither for nor against expensive or cheap phones. I just want you to actively think about your phone decision and then make a well-informed and reasonable move based on your needs. What I'm all in for though is buying used, as in my opinion it's just a much better value proposition, regardless of you shopping on the high end or low end. Well, that's it for today. I hope you liked it, and if so, I'd be super happy if you consider subscribing, especially as this is a young channel and every single like and subscription helps tremendously. So thank you for your time and everything, I really appreciate it, and have a nice day.